Greetings, good people. This is Jimmy Warren here with an Arkansas at Home exclusive. As we are leading up to the November election, I think that it's critical that not only people know about the issues, but people know the actual people who are on the ballot. And so it is my privilege and pleasure to bring to you today a force that has been a household name in Arkansas for so long, Senator Joyce Elliott. Senator Elliott, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you for asking me. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been in force for so long. That means I'm old, Jimmy. So hey,
No,
but
not at all.
no,
Not
but
at
I'm
all.
proud of every one of those years. No problem.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, for the few viewers at home who may not know, can you tell us a little bit about Senator Joyce Elliott?
Yes. I am an Arkansan by birth, and I like to say many times by choice because I've chosen to be here. I was born in South Arkansas in Nevada County. And a lot of people sometimes don't even know where that is. But yes, people, it's a real county. It's one of our smallest ones. So if you know where Prescott is, you kind of know where I was born.
Oh, yeah.
But I was actually born about 20, 25 miles from there in a little bitty town called Willisville. Population right now, 152. So it is fair to say I am pure country.
Yeah.
That's where I went to. I went to high school there and went to college not very far away at Southern Arkansas University. And after I graduated from there, I became a teacher. And out of some experiences that I had integrating a school where I thought things were so upside down and students should have better opportunities to have teachers that understood them. This is a time of integration where there were almost no Black teachers in many of the schools that were being integrated. And so I had the experience that was not good for me of not having anybody who looked like me at all teaching me. And examples of folks, whether they look like me or not, made it clear I was not wanted.
Right.
And so that really propelled me to be a teacher. And I taught school for 30 years. Most of my teaching years were in El Dorado and in Little Rock in the Pulaski County School District at Robinson, Joe T. Robinson High School. So I taught school for 30 years. I've been in the legislature right now I'm in my 18th year. If I were to have served the other 2 years, we have term limits.
Absolutely.
As term limits. And so I actually have 2 more years in the legislature, which would make for 20 years of service. But I don't plan to serve those 2 years in the Senate. I plan to serve those, of course, in Washington, as you know, in Congress. That's the plan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Awesome. Awesome. So I know you've been a long-standing champion for education amongst other policy issues.
Yes.
And we're facing challenges with COVID and everything that's going on with education. Can you talk a little bit about what you want to do on the federal level with education? I know that's a huge focus of yours.
Sure. Yeah, at the federal level, I think somebody needs to be a champion for making education, a priority at the national level. And that means world-class education at the national level. Because I think we all know that the state is responsible for education. That's a state function. But at the national level, we most certainly can be better allies than I think we are now.
Right.
Because it is important that we are competing in the world, and we've never had a coherent, thoughtful North Star about what we want to be either in our state or in our country when it comes to education. So it is just very, very clear that other countries are outpacing us. And that's why I think it's important for there to be a focus at the national level, working with our states, so that in every state we can build a world-class educational system. And the system is so key because right now we can call it systems all we want. It's really not a system. We just kind of put some things together because there's no coherent alignment about what is it we want to do and where are we going. We ought to know at least 20 years out. And of course, at the federal level, we can be supported with resources. We can also be supportive as advocates and helping states understand what other countries are doing. We tout Finland, we tout Japan, Taiwan, places like that, Singapore. where they're always, in the tops in the world. And we need to study what they're doing and learn from that, because one of the things that will surprise you, Jimmy, when I was a part of a group that studied the highest performing countries, 11 Democrats, 11 Republicans. And we worked with folks from all over the world, the Finlands and the Singapores and everywhere. One of the things they said to us is, we are confused about what America is doing with education, because you used to be the leaders in everything, and we were. And they had learned from us, and they're confused about why we quit doing what we were doing and including everybody. Right. So they've said to us, we just looked at America. We wanted to be at least as good as America. They never thought they would outpace us. Yeah. But I think that's because we took our eye off the ball and we let ourselves get distracted with all the things that were social, like not wanting to live among one another, not wanting to be in integrated schools, creating this kind of school and that kind of school. So I want to be a part of that, bringing us back to a focus where we can be world class.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not just in your last comment, but even before, when you talked about growing up, you talked about the integration of the school system. Yeah. And one issue that has kind of come back on the forefront here in Arkansas is hate crime legislation. And I know that's something that you've been championing for a while. And for people out there who don't know, Arkansas is only one of 3 states in the United States who don't have an official hate crime legislation bill. So can you kind of talk about your journey, when you started it to where we are now, and what you want out of the hate crime legislation bill?
Yeah. When I first started serving in 2001, your freshman year, you really need time to get your feet on the ground. You never imagine you're going to be enmeshed in hate crimes legislation as a freshman. That is a big deal. But as it turned out, when I got to the legislature, I ended up on the Judiciary Committee. Of course, my expertise was education, so it wouldn't be something as logical as, hey. So no, I'm on the Judiciary Committee. And I want to give a lot of props to, at that time, Senator Bill Walker and some others in the Senate, because the bill started in the Senate and it passed without a lot of, fanfare and very supported. But when it came to, and that was in the Judiciary Committee, and when it came to the House end where I was, for whatever reason, I got pegged and was the one. I don't know if nobody else would do it, because whatever the case may be. But it fell to me to have to shepherd that language, that bill in the House Judiciary Committee, and it was really tough. By then, it had become very controversial for whatever, because it was inclusive, of groups like, in this case, sexual orientation, because it was designed so that because of who you are, you would not be targeted for a hate. You would not be targeted for that, and a crime committed against you. I'm talking about an action against you. And so we were not able to get it passed because of that, and because a lot of the clergy showed up and were against it. That was 2001. And I've been working on it off and on all these years. And also with Senator Greg Leding, that's been a part of working with me as well. Yeah. And it's just now that we have come to a point, we have a bipartisan group of legislators who are working on, along with Governor Hutchinson, working on a bill that we hope we'll be able to get passed, because we are out there with Wyoming and South Carolina, as you said, only one of 3 states who's not passed hate crimes legislation. And I want people really need to look at this, because there's so much miscommunication and misrepresentation of what hate crimes is. Yeah. Hate crimes bill, what hate crimes bill is, it actually is. But we need to remember, it's a hand open to invite everybody in to let's live together. It's an open hand. It's not a clenched fist. Absolutely. Because as long as we go around with clenched fists and we don't have open hands and welcoming of all people, we will forever be putting ourselves behind. And so when it's mischaracterized as thought, like we're going to be policing thought, that is absolutely not correct. Yeah. You can't just think that you have to act on something.
Yes. I agree with you 100%. And thank you so much for championing that. And you talked about working with Governor Hutchinson on that. There's such a divisive time here in America, and a lot of Gen Zers and millennials like myself have given up on even the thought of voting. What do you
Yeah,
say to that person out there who is even past just picking a candidate? They simply don't want to vote.
right.
Talk a little bit
Right.
like why it's important to vote.
I will tell you because every generation, every generation has to decide to do its part. And I always say to people, I've never felt privileged enough to think I should not vote just because things are hard, just because I'm disillusioned. This is our country.
Yeah.
This is everybody's country. And I'm not willing to sit back and just let everybody else make the decisions for me. And I when I talk about it generationally, I mean that when I was 15 and made a decision that there's something wrong with our schools being segregated,
Right.
I felt I had a responsibility. It's my country. I want to make it better. This is my South. Arkansas is my state. I'm going to take a stand here, and I can't make it better if I'm not actively doing what I know I should do.
Right.
So I'm careful about not being critical of younger generations, but to say to you, I'm not asking you to do something that I haven't done.
Right.
I remained involved and my journey seemed so long because I started young. I started young and determining that I have to be a part of this. And the same thing is true now. Every generation, if we're going to keep this country and we're going to do better, every generation has to put their mark on it and not your mark without being part of that political process. Being so disillusioned that you keep handing your future over to somebody else
Right.
is not a winning strategy. Your vote matters. You know, and if you and there are folks who are trying to, and think about this, there are folks actively trying to keep you from voting.
Right.
You know what that means? That means they know your vote matters more than you know your vote matters.
Yeah.
And so don't let other people and the actions of others, and don't let cynicism cause you to play into the hands of people who'd rather not see you vote, because you might vote in a way that's going to change things that you want to have changed. And so for every person out there who's disillusioned, okay, that's fine. But the way to become undisillusioned is to get out there and change it. And do not wait for somebody else to do that. That's a real mistake. You're better than that.
There you go. Thank you. And you talked about kind of how you wanted Arkansas to be that North Star. And just for you, what was the moment? Because you said you could have served 2 more years in the Senate. What was the moment, or when did you know that you were going to take on this road to getting to Washington?
It was about November the 7th of 2019. But serving in Washington was something that I would have done, some time ago, because I ran in 2010, but I was not successful, as most Democrats weren't. So I would have already served there. But I'm lucky in that I wanted to serve to make the difference, and I got to serve here in my state. That is not something I was dissatisfied with.
Yeah.
But I've always thought it would be, I could help out making a change in Washington. So, but I was not really planning on this. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee actually came to Arkansas to recruit me to run, because they looked at, Clark Tucker had run in 2018 and had done a good job.
Yeah.
And so starting from that standpoint, of seeing things in DC that we were dismantling healthcare, and that was a really big thing that we had finally worked so hard across party lines to get healthcare, get the Medicaid expanded in Arkansas, where we covered 300,000 more people. And seeing the dismantling of that, really propelled me to think about when they came to recruit me, there are things that I care about that are not going the way they should. And I think the separation between the parties and not work, I've done that work. Yeah. I couldn't get a thing passed in the legislature if I didn't work with Republicans also.
Right.
There are not enough Democrats where I go, let's just go do this.
Right.
And so the thing I asked them, the Congressional Campaign Committee about, was, do we see a pathway to winning? Yeah, and the bottom line is we talked about it over a couple of days, and I could see that. Yeah. It's something I want to do. It's something I care about doing, because I remind people of DC can't just be about the wealth and the well-connected.
Right.
I was a school teacher, for God forbid, for 30 years. So, I'm neither of those things.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'm not that well connected. We are more and more, I think, we are more and more electing people who are more representative of the entire country.
Right.
And so I'm one of those persons who has a voice that's not been represented. I feel a responsibility
Yes.
to do it, because it's right back to what I was saying to young people now about not voting. Who am I to say Washington is broken, so I'm just not going to partake? That's what I'm talking about. I don't have that privilege. I don't think I should do that. And so I know how to work across party lines. I know about advocating for people who've been left out.
Right.
And a lot of that is missing in Washington. And it's certainly time to have more women. And Arkansas has, this is not a reason to elect me, but it sure would be helpful to another voice that, Arkansas has never elected a Black person to represent us in Washington.
Yeah.
And we're the only one of the old slave states or the Confederate states that's not done so. The only one.
Yeah.
That does take a different voice to Washington.
It does. It does. Absolutely. And you kind of segue me into my next point, just women in politics. Even across party lines right now, we are seeing just a dominant force and enthusiasm behind women in politics, whether it be potential Vice President Kamala Harris, Ayanna Pressley, or either Sarah Huckabee, who got on Forbes 40 under 40. What do you think about just this movement for women going towards politics?
Oh, I think it's terrific, because women are more than half the people in this country. It is just illogical that the folks who are more than half the people in this country, that we don't have that kind of similar representation. But the bottom line is we're not even remotely close to that. Yeah. And I think we have something like 110 women or something altogether in all of Congress, House, and Senate. Yeah. And that's 535 people. And so I think a lot of people have begun to recruit more women. Like in this case, one of the reasons that the DCCC was interested in my run as well is the fact they know that our lived experiences as women, the voices are not there, but they wanted somebody who's lived that experience and been successful doing so as a teacher, as a leader, and connecting people across lines. And that's being ignored in DC. And I think women who need to have a voice there. Men need to have a voice there, but neither one needs to be so upside down that the other is diminished. And it makes a difference when you can look at the demographics otherwise in the House. That's starting to change altogether. And people should not see that as a threat. It just means we're representative of our country, and we should want that. Because the more we have to work together and choose to work together, that's the more we're going to be able to get rid of the division. And I'm not going to Washington in the event I get to keep up division. That's just a waste of my time. Right. Now, I want to work with whomever I need to get stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you've alluded to it so much. For people out there who are wondering and want to know more about the Elect Joyce campaign, can you just give us like a high level overview of what you're working towards, who you're working for, what do you want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, one of the biggest thing I want to do when I'm there is take the voice of the people of the 2nd District to Congress with me. It's not just so much Joyce Elliott's voice. I want to be the voice because the 2nd District is a very diverse district. And right now, I've spent my whole life in public service, not self-service. That's been the way I have lived. It's been my choice. I could have lived to be much better off, and perhaps I could even have been a millionaire. Perhaps I could. I knew that was not going to happen, in public service the way I've been. But this is how I wanted to contribute to humanity, and that's been a good thing. Yeah. And so I've not been so much about the big special interest. And I don't have any interest in being Wall Street's, favorite congressperson. That's not what I want to be, because people who have the biggest voice in our district right now have the same with our current representative. The people who have the biggest voice are the ones whose voices are being amplified in Washington right now. Right. That's all well and good for them, but that's not the voice that's going to represent everybody.
Right.
And I am confident about my record in having voted with and represented people across the spectrum, because, as I said, this has been the through line of my life. And there's just a clear contrast between the current representation we have in Congressman French Hill and what I represent.
Right.
Because as we are all good in the upper crust of our economic strata.
Right.
Those folks are doing great. But America can never be as great as America deserves to be if that's the way we're going to resign ourselves, then that's the way it is. Because when we talk about our economy, the economy is great, Wall Street's great. That's not most of us.
Yeah.
And those are the voices, I think, those voices need to be lifted. And I listen to their interests, and people are concerned about the cost of healthcare. That's a big deal. Not as much as getting healthcare as I just can't afford it. And what are we going to do coming out of COVID-19? How do we emerge from this to keep people whole and also grow the economy? We can do that.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity, though, Jimmy, to start from where we are and grow the middle class, and grow the middle class into more strength and upward mobility, but reach back for the others that are not even middle class. Right. Because as bad as COVID-19 is, we have an opportunity to rethink what we're going to do about tax breaks for millionaires. Why do we keep doing that?
Right.
And so millionaires are going to have a tax break, based on the 2017 tax bill, that legislation that passed. They're going to have a tax break forever. Middle class has they have a tax break right now, but they're going to lose theirs. It's a lifetime tax on the middle class, but it's not so much so on the millionaires. That's the kind of thing that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It probably was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I'm scrolling on Twitter, looking on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I see the headline that President Obama endorses Joyce Elliott. For young Black men, I think besides a Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson or even Bryant, President Obama pretty much was the only role model that we were seeing outside of athletes. So for you, what was that moment when you got the call, and tell us how you found out that he was endorsing you? So what was it like to be endorsed by President Barack Obama?
Yeah, it really was a call. And it made me feel proud, because, I was mentioning early how in my state, in my legislative career, how I've been able to work with everybody, no matter their ideology, no matter what their background is. And I learned a lot of that, of course, integrating a school and learning how to navigate that. And being, a Black woman in the South, you have to learn to navigate things. You don't have a choice. Yeah. And so that's how we got the Affordable Health Care Act. And that's how we got a nation-wide recognition of a Pre-K Act passed. So when President Obama chose to endorse me, that was just another part of the breadth and the width of how I like to expand the people around me so I can get things done.
Yeah.
He was just one. It's wrong to say he was just one boy. He is, the former president.
Yeah.
But in a nutshell, though, that's really what it means. It's just an opportunity to be endorsed by somebody who has a larger platform. That if I can use that in any way to get things done for people back in Arkansas,
yes,
it's all good. I love the challenge of working, with all kind of people. Our diversity to me is just something wonderful and almost like an outright gift, I guess, as Robert Frost would say in his great poem about the gift to America. It's an outright gift to us.
Absolutely. And as we come to the top and the close of the interview, stepping away from education, stepping away from politics, who is just Joyce? What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing?
Joyce is a fun person. I work so hard, but I love dancing. I love music. I love nature, though. Just this weekend, I finally got a chance to get out and go hiking and see all this stuff. And I'm taking pictures and go, hey, y'all, I'm out in the woods. This is great. So people who know me know once I get in the woods, it's hard to get me out. I mean, growing up in the country, I guess I'm just pure country, I guess. But the other thing I like, though, I love adrenaline stuff. I love whitewater rafting, because knowing at some point you might fall out, but somebody will get you, or you better find an eddy and get yourself. And I love I like, for whatever reason, I love jumping off high things.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would go to Six Flags or someplace because they had those bungee things, where they draw you way up and you have to fly out.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
There's just something about that because for me, the way I live outside of my work is to create balance in my life, because I think balance is so important. And, I love to travel. I don't have enough money to travel everywhere I want to go,
Right.
but I really like traveling to places that I don't know very well, where I have to figure out how to get through it, how to learn the people there, and even sometimes the language, because that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
I have a granddaughter I have a son, I have a granddaughter. And, I think I don't mean to burst your bubble about, being somebody's son, but basically I've decided parents have kids just so they can get grandkids.
Yeah. I know that firsthand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really like to just, when I get away from work, be way away from work.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. And you talked about your love for dance. I was exploring your playlist, and you are certainly a connoisseur. You took us everywhere from Kelly Clarkson to Bruno Mars to Bruce Springsteen. I can tell that you truly have an enjoyment and passion for music.
Yeah, my music kind of reflects the way I like to live. Some of everybody and everything. Let's put it all in there, and all of those people represent. I mean, they have music that it just speaks to me, and sometimes it's not just words. Like, I can't listen to Bruno Mars. That's dance. Let's move. Don't be in the room with me if you're going to play Bruno Mars and not dance. It's so fun. And some of it is just message music that when I have a time to relax, like listen to that. And in the case of Kelly Clarkson, one of the songs I like so much. She's very eclectic, of course, but Piece by Piece just speaks to a part of my life, because she had a father who was not there, and for whatever reasons, I think maybe he had issues. And I had the same kind of experience in that when my mom and dad split, I was about 5 years old. I remember that, but I know my dad had alcoholic issues and so forth that he never got over. Yeah. So he was never really present. It doesn't quite work out in the song where he comes back wanting something from me. It's kind of the reverse of that. I always wanted something from him, right. But it was a lot of years before I realized he's not capable of giving it. And so sometimes it's just those things that are not so happy, but you go like, oh, okay, somebody else has been there too. And it's such a beautiful song. And and I think, with Marvin Gaye, and he just is, I think if everybody would listen to Marvin Gaye,
yeah,
he really is a catalog of the things that have been happening into this country. It's just that a lot of people don't know his music. I wish, when you get back to, what's going on, it's so much about what's happening right now.
Right now.
And then, he was into it, the ecology, and singing about that way before people realized, and singing about war and how we need to have peace. All of this in his music. And of course, I don't think many people like Bruce Springsteen any more than I do. I think about his music and just, I remember when he came out with Born to Run, and that iconic cover where everybody was just like, oh my God, this is Bruce Springsteen. I think that's when I think maybe he was on the cover, or maybe of a Newsweek or Time magazine or something, because he was this guy coming out of Jersey, and boy, he has never stopped coming. And the music has morphed over the years to, I look at a song like The Rising I think that was featured very prominently in the Democratic convention, because the song is about all of us coming up for the rising. Let's don't stay down. Right. They became popular after 9/11, when New York City was, in such a flux and everybody was down. Right. And this song came out of that. because we're going to rise up again. So, and it applies to all kind of life. Come on up for the rising, because you don't have to stay down.
Absolutely, absolutely. Senator Elliott, I have greatly enjoyed our time today. Just one last question I want to leave you with, just for those that are out there that maybe on the fence, or maybe they just want to hear words from who Senator Elliott is, or maybe they just want to help you on your journey to Washington. What message would you leave the people?
Oh, well, thank you for that question. Because I say to people all the time, you know, if you want to change things, you have to be involved. I will pledge to you, and I have an 18-year record, at least in politics, and you can see this. If you want to be involved, you want to make change, I can't make it by myself. Come be a part of this campaign if you believe in public service and having somebody who is not all about self-service. Get involved. Plan your vote. Let's do that. I ask you for your vote. I need your vote, but plan it. Plan to be there. Help other people get registered and help them vote. And the things that you can do outside of that, if you go to joyceelliott.com, you can find at my website a list of things that we need to have happen in the campaign. You can pick and choose how you can be a part of it, because there are several things that you can do that we can't talk about right now.
Yeah.
But if you want to make change, please help me be that person who can be there and work on healthcare, to work on the economy, to work on our infrastructure, to make sure we have a criminal justice system that is a justice system for all of us. Yeah. And that's how we do it, electing one person at a time. I want to be that person.
Absolutely. Senator Elliott, again, thank you so much, not just for the interview, but thank you for your dedication to Arkansas and always working to move the needle forward. You're greatly appreciated. Anytime you want to come back, you'll always have an open seat here at Arkansas, and I always wish you well.
Oh, wait, thank you for that, Jenny. I appreciate it. And good luck. Business continue to have great shows. I hope this added to it. So thank you so much.
Yes. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.